Welcome to another match preview for Wolves versus Nottingham Forest. And is it playtime or is playtime over? We've got our lovely mate, Davey Boy from Always Wolves. The link is in the title. Please go and make sure you're subscribed to them. Dave, how are you, mate? We ain't spoken for ages.
I know, mate. Good. Good. A lot better than I was during the summer. Let's put it like that. Things are a lot better than a lot of people, especially outside of Wolves, were predicting. And yeah, we're in an okay place at the moment. So yeah, good.
Mate, it was a turbulent summer. It was actually fun to watch from an
Mate, I know.
outsider.
We were like
Lopetegui
we were
going.
like everyone's sort of laughing stock in the summer. Come on, I mean, it was like comedy at Wolves. It was like completely imploding from the outside. You're looking, what the hell is going on at Wolves, man?
And it started like everyone expected it to from the summer because you were selling off to Saudi left, right, and center. Lopetegui leaves because you're not going to give him any money and what have you. And then Gary O'Neill comes in after being sacked from Bournemouth quite late into the
3 days before the start of the season.
yeah. And then it started, with the old Man U game, which I'll give you got screwed on big time, mate,
Yeah.
with that Varchester United. But you're kind of looking like a team lately, mate. Like it's been weird. And I guess my first question to you is, how was everyone feeling when Gary O'Neill first came in? Because
Okay.
technically I saw him as a reject from Bournemouth being chopped off, and then next thing he's over at Wolves.
I've got to be you've got to be honest. Like when I first saw it announced, I was like, no way. Because obviously the Bournemouth thing, we had a Bournemouth fan that came on, who talked about how he wasn't a big fan of Gary O'Neill, and obviously because he'd been at Bournemouth and he kept him up, but they were above the relegation zone when he came in. He was seen by a lot of fans as a bit beige, and like 5 or 6 games into the season, I mean, I do my live post-match shows, and a bit like you try and be even keeled and have an open mind. There's a lot of fans that like were screaming for him to go and saying they're calling him a PE teacher and stuff like that. We had pardon?
Seriously, was that what you guys were calling him?
Some fans were calling him like a PE teacher.
Yep.
And we had a really difficult start to the season. We had a tough start to the season anyway. It was a difficult start. We got that away win against Everton, which we always beat Everton at Goodison. I mean, we always seem to win. We've beaten them 3 times in a row at the Goodison Park. So we picked up a result there. But we didn't play bad again. I mean, we battered United and couldn't put the ball in the net. And then they had the VAR thing. Obviously, and we lost to Ipswich in the cup after being 2-0 up, and we capitulated. And we kept like conceding a lot of goals, and people were getting a little bit stressed, quite, understandably. And then you put this on the backdrop of everything that had gone on in the summer, the players that have sold, although I've got an opinion on that. Lopetegui that walked out on Wolves, I've got an opinion on that. And then Gary O'Neill coming in. It was just like a perfect storm, really. And Gary O'Neill walked into the middle of this perfect storm of a divided fan base, divided. Some people with the owners, some people siding with Lopetegui, people on what was right and what's true, the FFP situation that was going around, all of these things. And then Lopetegui basically doing a mic drop and just walking out, told Hobbs that after the Celtic game away in Dublin, in the thing that he was leaving, Lopetegui's still hanging around Wolverhampton, going to the gym in his Wolves training gear apparently and stuff like that. Obviously looking for a Premier League job. I'm sure you'll come on to that in a bit. But
Yes.
And Gary O'Neill's come in, and you know what? He walked into a storm. It wasn't his fault. People thought he had no personality. He came on. We got the result against Manchester City. The best thing that happened to us was Mateus Nunes. Pep Guardiola started Mateus Nunes in the middle of the pitch for City. Mateus Nunes had basically fought down tools and forced to move to City. So it united the whole fan base by him being on the pitch, the booing. I mean, he got taken off at half time, and it kind of from that moment on, and the way we played at Manchester City was fantastic. We went to Bournemouth the following week. I think it was,
And
and we
was
beat.
it Villa? It was Villa. You drew then with Villa, didn't you?
We drew with Villa. We should have beat
Yeah.
them. You know, they got a. We had a chance. Neto missed a good chance to 1-0. I think it was 1-1 in the end. But you know, Villa.
Didn't you had another red card in that game, didn't you? I think I'm
Yeah,
trying to remember that.
VAR, you know, if you go through the VAR decision last minute away at Sheffield United, penalty wasn't. VAR decision last minute and early doors against Fulham wasn't. Should have been 2 red cards as well for them, but wasn't. Luton, we're beating them 1-0 with 10 men. We hadn't played very well in the first half, but we're still leading. They got a VAR decision where it hit his foot and then onto his hand, and they gave it. 7 points.
Babies.
Yeah.
You're such crybabies, mate.
I know, mate. Well, you say that, but like it happened a lot last year. I mean, let's go back to the Forest game where the guy took his boot off and in the penalty area.
Or when he spat on Brennan Johnson, yeah.
I never saw that, mate.
Oh yeah, that one you didn't see, yeah. That one you didn't see.
No, in all seriousness, he went on to Monday Night Football, Gary O'Neill, and if you saw it,
I did, yeah.
And he was a massive, fantastic insight on how he prepares for games on training, and then he showed how they implemented it at Bournemouth. And that night that he went on to Monday Night Football, back off the back of City and thingy, everyone went, Jesus Christ, he's actually really good. You know, he was very engaging. He wasn't beige. He knew what he was very motivating, and it turned all the naysayers onto it. And since then, everyone's been like, yeah, Gary O'Neill, he's a good manager. And it's kind of the results have gone that way. Okay, we've had a few that haven't gone our way, as you do, but generally it's been an upward.
Even we beat Sheffield United.
Mate, you did beat Sheffield, and we should have been 3-0 up at half time. We couldn't score, but it's you know, it's one of them things. And it Wolves. I'm not going to be like, don't want to be too down on Sheffield United, but I think they are going to probably go down. But we played Huddersfield when Huddersfield were in the Premier League, and Huddersfield only won 3 games, and they will beat us home and away. And I remember coming out the McAlpine Stadium, and the Huddersfield fans were lovely saying, "Can we play you every week?" They only won 3 matches, and twice were against us. We're that sort of team. We're kind. So you know, this is what concerns me a little bit with Forest at the weekend. It's the sort of game Wolves really should win this weekend with how things are, but it's the perfect game for Forest to come and play. The perfect team.
I don't know about that, mate. I don't know about that because we are shite right now, mate. I mean, what's your take on Forest so far this season? How do you think they are where they should be, or behind, or?
I look at Forest, and I always think Forest, you know, are going to be a lower. Currently, are going to be a lower table side. I don't think you're ready for like quite there for the top 10. I am surprised because I thought Cooper, you know, kept you up. I know he had a bad run last year. They stuck with him and he kept you up. And I think it was, where did you finish in the end? Was it 15th?
16th, yeah.
15th to 16th. But like when you get promoted as a team, I mean, Wolves were an exception, really. I mean, because we did finish 7th the first 2 years, but most of the time you come up and it's about staying in the division that year. And you know, Forest bought in so many players and loans went out, and there's like 30 odd players that come in. It's hard to get a team when you've had so much change. So to stay up and get some sort of structure in the team, you've got a foundation then, I think, to then kick on to the next level.
Yeah,
and the thing that doesn't seem to have happened, or it did seem like it was early season, but the last sort of 5, 6, 7 games, it's kind of gone where Wolves have started to pick up after the tough start. Forest have gone like this, and I think your early season form was okay, but after that it's kind of gone. And I feel like the Forest are now in a position where like Wolves were in the summer, where the fan base are divided on the way forward, and there's that argument Cooper in, Cooper out, and I think that's where you're at. And you need to go one way or the other, I think, at this point.
Yeah, it's getting to that stage where I feel either way, if you're Cooper in or Cooper out, the decision needs to be made now. Because what will tend to happen is, I've seen it year in, year out with football. Let's say they stick with Cooper and then it gets a bounce back, but then this rears its ugly head again in, say, March, then it's too late to sack him. You've only got Sam Allardyce, the usual firefighters there.
Yeah.
And I do feel it needs to be a decision now. If it's done at the other side of Christmas, for me, that's too late. But it is getting a bit divisive in the fan base because it's 1 win in 11, 2 away wins in 27.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. 4 losses in a row, 5 losses in 6. All the stats are horrible right now for Forest. But whenever we get to play Wolves, there is still a little bit of needle between the two teams, especially after the cup game last year and good old, fingers in the air Morgan Gibbs-White, who I've got to say, mate, has been absolutely shite this season.
He was like the player of the year last year.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think that is? Because he's a talented boy.
I'll tell you what, mate. Something you said to me last year when I asked you about him and Bolly. You were right. I hate to say it. You said Bolly won't cause any problems. Good professional, gets his head down. Decent player. Morgan Gibbs-White, very talented, but his ego gets in front of him.
Yeah.
And for me, his ego's gotten in front of him. He's a bit prima donna-like. I think he's been overinflated by myself. He was brilliant last year. Probably a lot in the fan base and also the media. Anytime I do a preview with any team that doesn't really watch Forest that much, they always would say, if I'd say who's the danger man, they'd always say Morgan Gibbs-White, Brennan Johnson last year, for example. And I think that feeds into his ego and the fact that clearly he's a Cooper favorite and that that Cooper's almost tried to build the team around him, even though he's playing him out of position. I think that's fed into it. And then the whole England thing over the summer, that fed into his ego. Yeah. He came back without having a break, straight into Premier League. And I think he's doing too much, mate. It's the flicks and the tricks that are doing our head in.
Yeah, I mean, when they come off, they're great, aren't they? But when they don't come off, that's kind of like, where fans get, and it's when you do the flicks and tricks in your final third, you lose the ball and then they're in on goal. We had the same sort of thing with Daniel Pedence.
Yeah. Neto's still out, yeah.
I get that.
Is Neto still out for you guys?
Yeah, well, he is, but he's not far away.
Good. Really good player.
Waiting for the press conference later to see whether or not he'll be involved for the weekend. I think it might still come a bit too soon.
He could be involved?
Well, Gary O'Neill said last week he was back in training and stuff like that, not with the full group. It's an outside possibility. I think it's unlikely as we record this right now. Yeah. Gary O'Neill's press conference is around about 2:00. He'll probably give a little bit of insight. I think it's probably unlikely, but there is a possibility.
Crap.
He's not a million miles away now.
He for me, just before he got injured, was probably the hardest player in the Premier League.
Mate, he was ridiculous. I think he's still in the top 3 for assists, and he's been out for like 6 weeks.
Yeah, he's been. I was like, bloody hell, he's not staying at Wolves this year. There's no chance. There's no chance he's staying
for next season.
Yeah,
probably not. I think he's better than Jota.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But just quickly back to Forest then. You know your football, Dave. Who are our danger men, if any, right now that you're worried about?
Do you know what? I've always liked Divock Origi. I have. He always. You probably won't realise this. Did he Liverpool when he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a bit of a bit part player at Liverpool, but he always came on against us and scored. He scored every bloody time he played against us. So I worry about him because he does have an eye for goal against us. Obviously, you lost Johnson, who was really, really good. Morgan will probably start. I would imagine, because it's against Wolves, so he'd be quite motivated. So a lot of the Wolves fans go, I hope he don't play and score against us at the weekend as well. Chris Wood has always got a goal in, although he's been missing a little bit later. So he's got a good record of scoring against us as well, to be fair. So that's kind of like where I worry is those players have a history. Morgan's got a motivation because it's Wolves and all the stuff. And Chris Wood and Origi have got a really good record of scoring against us. And so that's where I worry, really.
Mate, I hate to tell you, there's nothing to worry about.
You say that against every other team, but this is Wolves.
No, mate, we played Everton 2 weeks ago, and they were literally shitting themselves about the thought of Origi because he scored some last-minute ones against them. He's scored like in their last 5 encounters. Yeah, don't worry, he hasn't scored a single goal for Forest. Yeah,
Chris Wood to score against Wolves, isn't he?
Chris Wood, I think me and you are faster than him. Me and you are more mobile than him. Morgan.
Wolfie, I've never seen you this down about your team, man. You sound
honestly,
really down.
It's dire. It's dire right now. The football they've down tools on Cooper. That Fulham 5-0. It was the first match since Houghton where I went in there just not feeling, that fire. That fire you get. I just wasn't feeling it, man. And we're at crunch stage with Steve Cooper. The reports are if he loses this, he's done. He could win this and still go, as far as I know, But this is gonna be.
When I was listening to the to the game the other night, Fulham, the away fan base, which is generally the first lot to turn, they were singing his name at the end.
There's a diehard Cooper in that will take. Now, I'm not saying about these guys. I'm just saying it in general. There is some people in the fan base who have said they are happy to get relegated as long as Steve Cooper stays because he gets us. Yeah. And I'm like,
I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I want to get.
The away fans are brilliant, man. They'll just back the team, whatever. The home fans turned at Everton. They were ringing out the boos the other night at Everton. So I think with us, it's more so if the away fans go, then you're fucked. Yeah.
That's it. It's generally the away fans that do tend to go first. So, but the one thing that I was impressed and surprised. I mean, the Forest fans will, always give the support for the team and stuff like that. But like at the end of that match, you've just got destroyed by Fulham, and they, it was like you didn't have any defence at some points at all, and yet the away fans were singing Cooper's name, and I was like, my God, they're really sticking by him. And then obviously I've spoken to you, and you're like on the opposite side, and you said that. So this is why I'm kind of thinking it's a bit of one at the moment where there's probably infighting amongst the fan base, because you know how toxic it can get, and stuff where people are so passionate for their team, and everyone wants like your team, like you, Forest, to do well and successful. But some people have like had enough, because he's was almost like the new Messiah, the new Brian Clough, wasn't he? At Cooper. So he's kind of got that association with Brian Clough in the fact that what he did, like getting you from nowhere to come and get promoted, then keeping you up and building a new team. And people are so grateful for that, on what he's achieved. And he had almost that Messiah status.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, people are going, yeah, it's all right saying that, but look where we are now, and look at the form last year. It's happening again now. And this is like, if we don't do something, we're going to be in another relegation battle. So that's kind of, I guess, where you're at.
You've summed it up perfectly. You summed it up. And, I think I always say everyone should be open about their opinion.
Yeah.
But the problem in the Forest fan base right now is that if you are against someone else's opinion, you're a Derby fan, or you don't care about Forest, or, all that stuff. And it's like the goal is still exactly the same. It's just what angle are you coming from it? Now, are you right to be Cooper in? Are you right to be Cooper out? You can never objectively prove yourself to be right or wrong. This is football. You can't. It's impossible. It's all opinions, and I just think it's getting a bit silly. But it is going to come out ahead this Saturday, and the talk is if he loses, he's gone, and the guy coming in is your boy Lopetegui. Now we've had a chat about this over the week, mate.
I don't
But
see it, mate.
go on, talk to me about it. I mean, I wanted to say
I don't see. I mean, he might. Let's face it, the facts of the matter are Lopetegui left Wolves, under a cloud, really. And he's still hanging around somewhere in Wolverhampton, I think, waiting for a Premier League job. I just don't think Forest is the job that he's waiting for. And
why?
I don't want to be disrespectful.
Just say it, man.
I don't want to be disrespectful because I like Forest. I like the fans. I love the.
But you don't like me, so
I like the fact that we've got these games against a team in the Midlands, and Forest have got a lot of history.
Don't give me all this BS, Dave. Let's talk straight. We always do.
I'll tell you the reason why.
Say it straight.
Lopetegui, the history with Wolves and why he came to Wolves in the first place. When Fosun took over Wolves, right? Lopetegui was in place to become the manager, their first manager. He was going to be. The deal was done. They took over Wolves. Lopetegui was in place. Had already said he was going to be the new Wolves manager, and then Spain came in for him just before, and he went to manage Spain. So his country came calling. So he went to manage Spain, unbeaten, by the way, when he managed Spain, totally unbeaten. And then, whilst he was at Spain, and this is the type of manager, this is the thing I don't like about Lopetegui. We'll come on again now. He's a great manager, and he'd be good for you if you got him. He probably will save you if you get him.
Yeah.
But Spain sacked him because he was having behind the scenes chats with Real Madrid. So he went to manage Real Madrid. And they didn't like it, so they sacked him. He goes behind your back, Lopetegui. Yeah. Anyway, he went to Real Madrid. Didn't quite work out for them. His record was okay, but he was thinking. And then he went to Sevilla. Look what he did with Sevilla. Yeah. He took them, to they won the Europa League. I remember going to watch. Well, didn't go to watch because it was in the pandemic. But watching Wolves play Lopetegui's Sevilla team in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, and Raul did miss a penalty. It was the first penalty he'd ever missed. But they battered us and we lost 1-0 late on. They eventually won it, the Europa League. I think they beat United in the semis or final or whatever. And then he qualified Sevilla for 3 years in a row for the Champions League in La Liga, which had never been done. So he's that good quality. When he left Sevilla, the whole fan base clapped him off and he left. His father was ill, poorly. Obviously, they sacked Bruno Lage. He didn't want to come, and then he went over. Jeff got him, and he came in at the right time, early doors World Cup. So it was like another mini pre-season. He turned our fortunes around.
You were bottom at the time, weren't you?
Now, when Lopetegui came in, he was paid 3 to 4 times any Wolves manager has ever been paid. He brought with him an entourage of people that he wanted. Some people that never even set foot in the UK. There were something like £10 million, a week or whatever it was, like a year, sorry, the whole package for him. And he was, Kuna was his top target. Wolves paid over the odds for Kuna. You'll see at the weekend, £42 million. We bought in about 4 or 5 players that he wanted in January. So they gave him, they spent the money, they bought it in. So that's great. We stayed up. We finished 13th. We're all looking forward to next season. Got Lopetegui. Everything's really good in the garden. We've stayed up. We've got this. Then FFP hits. And, Wolves sell a lot of players, although it was only really Ruben Neves that was the big one. Obviously, we eventually sold Mateus Nunes, but that was kind of after he'd gone. And this is where I lose a bit of respect for Lopetegui, is that he got his mate Balagi, the journalist, Guillem Balagi, to tweet some stuff out, obviously, and that starts to load bullets about he's unhappy. Then he goes and does, about a month later, a behind closed doors interview with Guillem Balagi I don't know if you saw it, in his hotel room. It was a terrible video in terms of like the sound quality, where he's basically gone behind the media team and the Wolves didn't know about it, talking about stuff. Now, he might have had issues, which is fair enough, but he seems to have this, in my mind, this I'm bigger than you, I'm bigger than you type of thing. And he does tend to sort of do these things behind people's backs. You saw it with Spain, Real Madrid, stuff happened with Sevilla, although he, and then you've seen it at Wolves. And if you get him, he will keep you up. No shadow of a doubt.
What's his style of play, Dave? Is he a defensively minded coach? Because I hear that bit banded at him a lot. Or is he up for like a high press attacking style?
Yeah, he likes to break and stuff, but like he likes his back four. He's a back four type of player. He'll try and stop the goals leaking in, and then build from there. And he'll build a team. But this is why I don't think he'll come to Forest. I'll be surprised. He left Wolves because apparently there was no money because of the FFP. But they spent a lot of money in January bringing in players. And had we bought in 5 players. Had we bought in 2 or 3 players in the summer window, no one would have said anything. But we spent all the money in January getting what he wanted. And obviously, you look at Everton this year and what's happened with them, with things. So there's a big divide in the fan base about going on the side of Lopetegui, on the side of Fosun. They don't interest it. And he created this divide. And I don't like that. The fact that he didn't need to do that. And then he just walked out on us just before the start of the season. After the whole of pre-season, he just goes. And saying the squad's not good enough. Well, clearly the squad's good enough because you've got Gary O'Neill that's come in with that squad. And take a thing. But the thing is, if he comes to Forest, he's going to want a lot of money spent in January. And he's going to come in and he's going to want to bring in all his team, which is going to cost a lot of money for Forest. And I also think that Forest are going to be in exactly the same position that Wolves were next summer. Because you spent a lot of money in the last 2 years, and I think you're going to have to cut your cloth a lot. And I don't think Forest will give.
We got more money than you, Dave. I know you're jealous, but we got more money than you.
It's not about how much money you've got. It's about the rules, isn't it?
105, mate. 105, and then FFP.
And I don't see why you would go from Wolves, who were like more established in the Premier League than Forest, with respect to Forest. Why would go from Wolves? Who paid him a lot of money, who brought in a lot of his players, and then he walked out because we hadn't got the money this year, to go to Forest, who I don't think are quite as established in the Premier League, and he's going to go back into another relegation battle like he had with Wolves last year and do the same thing again, and then he's going to have the same issue next year. That's the reason why I think he's waiting for a top 8 club. Top hot, who's like a United, Ten Hag, someone like that to go. That's what he's waiting for.
If Dave, let me ask you this: if say he came to Forest, and say he did what he did at Wolves, he took you guys from bottom last year up to 13th, is he the kind of man? Let's assume there's no BS in the summer. Is he the kind of man? Say Marinakis brought him in and could back him over the summer. Could he then kick a club on?
Yeah. That's what we were expecting at the end of last season. Okay, we stayed up, we've got him, we've got a great manager, everything's good, and then we're going to kick on. And then it obviously didn't happen because of the financial constraints, and he threw his rattle out the pram and all of that sort of stuff. So he's a great manager. He's got structure, he's got a big entourage, he will demand a high fee, and he will demand that if I'm coming, you've got to invest. And he wants that because he wants to be basically doing what he did with the likes of Sevilla in La Liga, and he wants to be managing at that elite level. And that's the reason, no disrespect to Forest, I would be surprised. It would also almost be hypocritical if he then went to Forest after walking out on Wolves, who were in a stronger position. So it didn't make any sense.
You mean it with disrespect. I know you.
No, I don't. I mean it with
No,
all the greatest respect, and I'm
I
trying
don't.
to give a reasoned argument
No,
why
I think, you know what, mate? I'm so glad we're playing you, because I did want to ask you about Lopetegui, because obviously you've lived through it, and at the moment he is being heavily linked with him. But as always, we're just chatting away, mate. I'm just looking at the time. Let's just jump back to this match on Saturday. How do you think it's going to end up, and how do you think the play will develop on the pitch?
Right. So, Wolves have obviously we've had some difficult matches against Tottenham and Man City and
United.
and stuff like that. Where the expectations, obviously, as you go into those games, is a lot lower.
Yeah.
The expectation levels for this game, as it was against Burnley, is that we should be going and turning you guys over comfortably. It's never like that. Burnley had come off the back of a 5-0 like it was against Sheffield United. They were down to 10 men at half time, but their confidence, and they had a couple of good chances.
Mr. Sitter, that double save with your backup.
It was a good save from Bentley, who's the standing keeper as well. And then Wolves were not on it, but I think we weren't on it because there was a lot more expectation on that game.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're playing against like a City or a thing, you can be
You're
a little
bit
more freer because people. But I'm really glad we won that game against Burnley, because it kind of, winning that game takes a little bit more pressure off the Forest game. Had we drawn that game or lost it, there's an even bigger expectation to beat Forest. So I think our performance levels will be stronger against Forest than it was against Burnley. I think we'll be better prepared for it because he's had more time. So I'm expecting us to play better and create more chances. On the flip side, Forest have come off a bad run, and you've just lost 5-0. Steve Cooper has got his head in the guillotine with the chairman, holding the thing to pull it to let him go. And there's a baying crowd of Forest fans that, in some ways, would love maybe Cooper not to get a result against Wolves because they want rid. But there's another side of the Forest fans that want him to turn it round like last year. He's got fans from the Forest fans saying he's lost the dressing room. I think that the proof will be in the pudding on the performance from Forest at the weekend. Has he lost the dressing room? Because if he has lost the dressing room, then there'll be headless chickens running around for Forest. But I'm expecting that he will get a resilient Forest team, and the players will want to show that they're fighting for him, and will come out and will give a lot for the team and for the fans. And I think it's going to be a difficult game for Wolves. I think if Wolves get the first goal, I think Forest might capitulate and implode. I think the Reds might go. But Wolves are slow starters, mate. We conceded within 2 minutes against Tottenham. We conceded within 5 minutes against Sheffield United. We conceded early against Fulham. We were slow starters again against Burnley. We haven't started really well. So if you're going to...
We're quick starters. We scored the most goals in the first 5 minutes in the Premier League.
Well, there you got your perfect storm, isn't it?
I got you worried now, Dave.
I have concern because it's that sort of game where it's a typical Wolves game where it's the team that's struggling that will come to Wolves, and like that Huddersfield team, that we like helping teams out, and that's at the back of my mind. It'd be like before the Man City game, after we were saying, it'd be typical Wolves, and before the Tottenham game, we'll go and beat them. It's like that's kind of what we do, but then we'll play like a team like Luton or Sheffield or Burnley or where Forest are at the moment, and we'll trip up because that's the Wolves way. Saying that, despite all that, I think this team is, although we've got injuries and we've got people out and stuff like that, I do think there is a team spirit within Wolves, that they're playing for the manager, that they've got resilience. Even against Arsenal, when we went 2-0 down after 13 minutes, we held in there and got a goal, and they were hanging on at the end. I do think that Wolves will win the game. And I think if we get that goal. It could be 2 or 3-0 in the end, but it ain't going to be an easy match for sure.
All that big man talk, all that scared of this, and then you're saying 2 or 3-0.
I think it could be, yeah. I think we're due
There's
to
only
do
one
someone. I
result,
think
Dave.
we're due to do someone. We haven't done someone for a long, long time. We're due to have a game where we do, and whether it happens the weekend, again, if we tripped up, it wouldn't surprise me. But I do think we've got enough that we will find a way. And then when we get the first goal, you've got to open up a bit, and we could pick you off.
Mate, there's only one result that's happening this weekend. 1-0. Morgan Gibbs White.
It's not what you said on my preview, mate.
No, I know. I was down. I filmed you that preview an hour after we just got slapped by Fulham, man. I was on freaking suicide watch at that stage, man. But yeah, look.
Despite everything, mate. Despite everything, I want Forest to stay up. You know, you're a Midlands club. We don't have many Midland derbies. I mean, how many times we have to go to bloody London? It's like it's almost like you have to move to London because they have so many games in London. Even in the FA Cup, you know, we drew bloody Brentford away. It's like, oh God, we're going there again. So, despite everything, obviously we win the game the weekend. But I like the Forest fans. I like the fact that you're in the Premier League. You're a proper Midlands club with a proper fan base. And I hope you do stay up, you know, whatever happens at the weekend, you know. So, but like, obviously we win the game the weekend, but I do hope you stay up.
Fair enough, mate.
And I think you will stay up because I think if you can't stay up this year, you're never going to, you don't
deserve to stay up if you can't stay up this year. Dave, it's been a pleasure, mate. It's been a pleasure. We'll talk again soon. We always do. Guys, what a legend Dave is. Link to his channel, Always Wolves, it's in the title. All you have to do is click on that, hit subscribe, completely free to do. Make sure you show him some support. And when Forest do beat him 1-0, I want to see all those Morgan Gibbs White emojis in his chat. Don't forget to do that. Dave, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been so much fun catching up with you, bro.
It's an absolute pleasure, mate. An absolute pleasure. And, you know, obviously we'll catch up, I'm sure, on WhatsApp after the game and everything. But really enjoyed it. Thanks for asking me on again.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Please hit that like button, subscribe to both channels if you're new, and let's see how this one pans out. Come on, you Reds.